How can the literacy coach support content area teachers? First, it is important for literacy coaches to understand what it means to be literate in science in order to help the content area teachers. Being literate in science means that one can read and write scientific texts, think and practice like a scientist, and has knowledge of science that is useful for life. As we heard from Christy, one popular resource used in science classrooms is the textbook. However, we know that many times textbooks are written above student level and include general information about science topics. As we heard from Michelle, other attempts to include literacy in science classrooms is the assign and tell technique, which is when the teacher assigns a text to be read and then tells students what they should have learned from the text. In many science classrooms, there is no reading of science texts at all. If literacy coaches know the current use of literature in science classrooms and literacy issues that content area teachers see with their students, they can better understand the problem and therefore help content area teachers address them. To solve these problems, it is important to work with content area teachers to help them combine inquiry and science content with literacy. To summarize the role of a literacy coach, they should understand and analyze the current practices, use research and facts to enhance instruction, make content area teachers aware of their responsibility to teach literacy, and introduce them to strategies, such as the ones listed here, that will be beneficial in their science classrooms. They must make science teachers see that not only do they have the responsibility to teach literacy skills, but that doing so will enhance their practice as well as their student achievement. It is very important to include inquiry-based instruction in the science classroom. However, without a strong foundation in background knowledge, vocabulary, and reading skills, teachers found that inquiry-based instruction alone was not enough to improve content knowledge. These 5 elements, when used in a science classroom, combine inquiry, discussion, and expository text. In the article Content Area Literacy, Individualizing Student Instruction in Second Grade Science, the authors describe the 5 elements being put to use in a second grade classroom. The teacher first created small, flexible groups of students in the classroom based on ability, where she was then able to supply the scaffolding that students needed. Then the teacher selected labeled texts on the scientific content to be used with each group and taught explicit strategies for comprehending expository text. After groups were formed and texts were chosen, the teacher used the 5 elements throughout the course of the unit. The first was engage. Using background knowledge strategies, the teacher engaged the students in the upcoming topic. The second component was explore. In this inquiry activity, students worked in their groups to observe and discuss a scientific phenomenon. In the explain phase, students used expository text to learn more about the topic and connect to their observations and predictions made during the explore phase. In the elaborate phase, students discussed and shared their findings from the reading with the whole class. The groups also completed another inquiry activity or experiment that applied their new understandings. The teacher evaluates student progress during the lessons as well as after the unit. Using these 5 elements in a science classroom can be useful when trying to help students become scientifically literate. By combining inquiry-based instruction with expository texts and reading comprehension strategies, students are able to practice and predict like scientists and apply their knowledge from the reading and activities to understand scientific concepts. Reciprocal teaching is a procedure in which students and the teacher take turns leading dialogue about sections of text. The term reciprocal describes the nature of the interaction. Each person acts in response to the others. In this literacy strategy, the teacher guides the students through the use of 4 reading strategies: summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. Scaffolding techniques are used heavily with the students when first presenting this literacy strategy. However, the teacher gradually releases control to the students, with the ultimate goal of students being independent in their use of the strategies and their ability to lead the dialogue about text with their peers. The use of the 4 strategies was found to be effective because when they were used together, they encouraged students to make meaning from the text and check for their own understanding, both of which are needed for comprehension. When reciprocal teaching is used in the classroom, students in small groups are given a role. These role cards are an example of some you may use with students to give them a reference and description of their role. The role of a leader may also be used. With the intended nature of reciprocal teaching, students would help and be helped by their peers, even though they are each given one task. The use of reciprocal teaching in a science classroom would help students who have trouble comprehending expository text. It would also help students make sense of science content from reading and would lead to students becoming scientifically literate. As we know, QAR teaches students the relationship between different question and answer types. After students read, many of them struggle to answer the questions presented to them, which may come from a lack of understanding of what resources to use to answer each question type. The benefits of using QAR in a science classroom can best be understood when we look at the skills that are enhanced by using this literacy strategy. Skills such as defining, recalling, summarizing, comparing, analyzing, inferring, applying, and justifying are just some of which are taught by using QAR. All of these skills will help students to become scientifically literate, which, if we remember, means they can read and write scientific text, think and practice like a scientist, and understand science that is useful in their lives. Using literature circles in an inquiry-based science classroom is another great way to help students become scientifically literate. Straits and Nichols write, the link between literature circles and inquiry science is natural. Consider the best practices in a literature circles classroom, which include asking authentic, open-ended questions and using students' responses to further discussions. These practices mirror quality inquiry science classroom practice. Literature circles are like book clubs where students read a text and come prepared with understandings and ideas to discuss. In literature circles, each student is given a role. Their performance and success in one specific role should enhance the discussion and understanding of the whole group. Two types of literature circles are described that can be used in science classrooms. Topic-centered literature circles focus on one topic, but the students may or may not read the same text. Text-centered literature circles focus on the same topic, and students all read the same book. Roles such as discussion director, illustrator, summarizer, and passage master are given to students in both of these literature circle types. Roles such as science translator, science biographer, and fact finder can be used in topic-centered literature circles. In text-centered literature circles, roles such as word wizard, everyday life connector, and science sleuth are suggested. Keep in mind that these are suggested roles and jobs for students. Science teachers and literacy coaches can work together to come up with other roles that they believe will help their students. Strait and Nichols also suggest that all text in the science classroom used with literature circles do not need to be expository text. Fiction books with science themes, such as the ones shown here, promote interest in science as well. As Megan suggested, teachers may want to use popular television series, such as CSI or House. Students could watch a scene or clip from these shows as well and come prepared to their literature circle ready to discuss them. The literacy coach should also understand the connection between standards that content area teachers must use. According to the Next Gen Science Standards, literacy skills are critical to building knowledge in science. In this copy of Next Gen Standards for 4th grade, you will see that listed are Common Core state standards that connect to this standard. This makes it easier for the literacy coach to help science content teachers understand their role in teaching literacy, as well as the importance and necessity of using texts to teach their subject.